right, everybody, let's get started. Hello and welcome. Thank you for coming to our advisory group tutorial Friday Spring Spectacular. I'm Sarah Gorman. I am the City Clerk Services Manager. I think I know some, but not all of you. And I'll have my fellow panelists. This feels very panel-like, not training-like.
Yes, it does.
Have our panelists introduce ourselves, and then if each of you wouldn't mind just saying your name and if you staff an advisory group, which one it is. Oh, most importantly, if you guys ask questions or otherwise show like proof of life and interest today, then I'll throw candy at you and I'll probably have a really bad throw and it'll go to your neighbor and you'll wonder how I got through life with such a poor sense of aim.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Norma Estrada, Deputy City Clerk. You probably know me from a bunch of emails. So I will not be throwing anything, so you're good. Just as she said, we'll just be going over mostly agenda postings and some Brown Act stuff. So, yeah, thank you for coming.
And I'm Zach Smith, the Web Services Technician. I'll be going over the posting agendas and the calendar on Civica.
Do you work with an advisory group?
I got thrown onto a Dale Guerra.
Excellent. Welcome, and I know they're delighted to have you. And your positive attitude. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate that. That was helpful for all of you, but mostly just helpful for me because now I can put faces to the names. And thank you. I would like to say at the beginning, thank you all so much for your work. I know Santa Barbara takes the concept of boards and commissions very, very seriously. There are some cities that have 3 advisory groups or 4, and we have over 40 because we're amazing like that. And the city is structured in a way where they really want to have a lot of public input. They really want to have these kind of paraprofessionals, folks that are volunteers from the community and experts in particular areas. And we really, really appreciate all of your efforts to get that input and stay out of jail while we're doing it. So we're here to talk about the Brown Act, which is the open and public meeting law in California. So essentially, Norma and I are here at the beginning. If you have any Brown Act questions you'd like to throw to us, and if you don't, we can take them at the end. And after that, we'll turn it over to Zach, and he will talk about through the technical issues of posting the agenda and the documents online. So if you guys have any burning Brown Act questions, we can take them at the beginning. If not, we can take them at the end as they occur to you. All right, Mr. Smith.
Well, that was quick.
You're welcome.
As I said, I'm Zach, and I am here for any kind of technical issues you have, posting agendas, posting to the calendar, posting to the website, etc. So today we're going to go over a few things. I'll bring up the boards and commissions sites. So I'll just go into the Access Advisory Committee because it's first. But basically on these pages, you have main page, you have the agendas, meetings, and schedules page. And we have been having some intermittent issues with the website this morning. So hopefully it goes smoothly, but I just want to let you know our Dan in IT is working on it. And yes, but and also this is the first time I've done this today. So if I mess up, forgive me.
Thank you very much, Zach. And truly, thanks so much to Zach for being here. This has been a completely insane day in Webmasterland.
It's Friday.
And we are very, very appreciative of being here. Thank you.
And yeah, feel free to interrupt or raise your hand if you have any questions as I go along. So this is sort of the main page that we'll be talking a lot about. The first thing to note here is the contact information. I'm going to hop over into SharePoint really quick. So this is SharePoint. If you're not familiar with it, you can just type in MOS into your URL bar. It's better to use it in Internet Explorer. I'm going to be doing everything in Internet Explorer today. Both Civica and SharePoint is preferred that you use Internet Explorer. In SharePoint, there's a couple extra features there. But it will work in Chrome as well. First things first, there is a SharePoint list that Norma let me know that it should be all updated now, but it might be worth going and double checking that. And it's under Departments, Administrative Services, City Clerk, and then Advisory Group, Agenda Staff. And this has all of the contact information on here. So this should match the Boards and Commissions page. So if that is out of sync, or if you notice that your name isn't on there, get in contact with me and Norma to have that changed. The next portion that we'll be going over here is the all of these files on here. So these are placed basically in a folder, and I'm gonna get to it and go over the whole process. But it's these files are placed in a folder, and you place them in there. And then what happens is Civica looks at this folder every 15 minutes and sees if there's a new file in there. And if there's a new file in there, it'll bring it into Civica. And then this page looks every 15 minutes and sees if Civica has a new file in it, in its file bank. This process, I'll go through it, and it might take up to half hour for it to post when you put it in that folder for the first time. But yeah, we'll get into the more detail of it. But this is basically kind of the bulk of the result of the agenda posting. All right. So to get to the folder where you can post to that page, you're going to go to SharePoint again. It's under Online Services and Internet Posting Folders. So this is what we call the Internet Posting Folders. And there's a big button on here, Open Internet Posting Folders in Windows Explorer. And this is one of the things that's not going to work in Chrome. So just a note, you want to go into Internet Explorer to open this page up. So we'll click on that. And it'll open up this folder up here. Like I said, there's a place that we have to put all these files, and then Civica looks and sees if there's new files in there. I'm going to use the test folder. here. And what we have is an archive and a current folder within here. So first things first, I'm going to put this, I'll do it full screen for now. What you can do here is create a shortcut on your desktop if you want to get to it a little bit quicker. So you can right click, and it's very small so I can't see it, but create shortcut there. And then you can move that to your desktop. Just drag it over. And I'll just delete that one so we don't have too much clutter. But that'll make it so it's a little bit easier to get to this, so you don't have to go to the Internet Explorer, you don't have to go to the internet posting folders and then click that link. It'll just be on your desktop. One thing that I want to mention in here that's there's a couple things that are important, but or a couple things where you could make a mistake. And the first is under the current folder, the current agenda. Whenever you place a file in there, it's going to send out an email notification to whoever's subscribed to your advisory group. So you want to make sure that when you post the current agenda, it is finalized, it is named correctly and everything, and we'll go over that. But that's a really important thing to remember, is that when you post a file in the current agenda, if you copy it, file in there, you have a little bit of time, but in about a half hour or so, an email should go out saying, there's a new agenda available, click here to look at it. So sometimes, folks will post it in there and then realize, oh, that's the wrong file, or I named it incorrectly or something like that. And if you have to go back and put another one in there, it's going to send out another email. So always make sure if you're posting a current agenda that it is finalized and that you've looked it over and you know that it's correct. So I just want to call that out before we get too far into it. Also in this test folder, so I'll back up here, there's an archive folder. So the archives, there should be a 2020 archive folder in there as well. And it has the same folders in there. I'm going to hop back over to this page just to show you kind of the lay of the land, what it looks like. So this is the current folder that's being displayed on this page. You have all your folders. And if I should note too, if there's nothing in that folder, it's not going to display a header on here. So until you put a file in that folder, it'll display a header and it'll display the files that are in there. The archive folders are over here. So each year has an archive folder. 2019 will have everything from 2019 in it. 2020, there's probably not anything in here now, but that's going to show whenever you bring those current agendas into the archived agendas folder. So if I hop back over to here, in the archive folder, you have the same thing. These don't send out notifications, so you can put the files in the archive folders. It's not going to send out a notification. Again, that current agenda folder is the only folder that will send out an email notification. So backing up a little bit, any questions so far, just to everyone following? Cool. So under the current folder, basically, how often is it that they should be bringing things over into the archive folder? Obviously, for the current agenda, you only want one agenda in there, and then you want to bring it over. But yeah, I would kind of keep things current on that page, and then bring it over once the meeting has ended, right? Yeah, okay. Just making sure. All right, so under here, what I usually do, and I may not have a file open on here, but basically once the window is open, if you do File up here and open New File Explorer window, if you have your documents over here, you can kind of pin one side there, pin the other side here. So you have your agenda folder over here. You'll open your current agenda. I'm just going to use this as an example. Ignore this part. Okay. So your current agenda folder might be empty. It might have an old one in there. If it has an old one, you can cut that and put it into the archive. And then say you have a new agenda over here on your computer that is finalized, that is ready to go. It's kind of hard to see up there, but the second important thing. So there's two opportunities to kind of mess up. One is sending out multiple emails to everyone who's subscribed, and the other one is the naming convention of the file itself. So on this annual updates procedures document that you have, or you should have, page 5 has the naming convention of boards and commissions documents. Before that, it goes over some of how to set up the shortcut and all that. I would read all of it over, but I want to call out this because it's a little small up there. But so this file here, you can see that it is named as it is on page 5 there. So year dash month dash day underscore and then name to be displayed. I'm going to open up the page again and go back to our current agendas. Wonderful. So this is a good example here. So the current agenda, you can see here, it doesn't start with that year, etc. The reason for that is to put things in order. So when you have your archive folder, if we didn't have that, I think it's 10 digits right there. If we didn't have that, things would just be ordered alphabetically, and we want to order it by date. So that's the ordering of the documents in here is by those 10 digits, and it's not read by this page. So basically, all that's to say, if you put in a file that doesn't start with the year, month, and date, the Civica here that is going to chop off the first 10 digits because it always is not going to display that. If you want to name your agendas with the date in the same format, then you would just duplicate it. But sometimes people will put in, if the file was named starting November 8th, it's going to chop that off and it's going to start with like ER space 8. And that's another thing that sometimes happens where, you'll drop that in and then a half hour later you'll see it appear on the page and it's kind of nonsense because it's missing those first 10 digits. So always make sure that the page 5 naming convention is followed, and you start with the year dash month dash day. And it's important to use 4 digits for the year, 2 digits for the month, 2 digits for the day. Does that make sense? I know it can be kind of confusing, but it's sort of where I see, sometimes people will put that in the current agenda without the year, month, day, and they'll see it's messed up, and then they'll have to redo it, and then it sends out another email. So just make sure that whenever you have your file ready, and I'll bring these back up here. Whenever you have your file ready, like it is on the right, it has that year, month, day, underscore, whatever you want to name it as. And all you're going to do is just drag it over from your documents into the current agenda, and that's your that's the process there. So it's really pretty simple. Everything works through the file system. You don't have to go into Civica to change anything. It's all in the file system, and everything in the file system is duplicated on the page. Yeah. So as long as there's not any questions on that, I can move on. Yep. That's a good question. So what happens is that there is a 15-minute process that run every 15 minutes. Civica looks at the file system. So it depends. Basically, it depends on when. Yeah, exactly. So if that process just ran, you have 15 minutes. But if it's about to run in the next, you didn't throw it. Yes. If it's about to run, if it's like, at the end of its cycle and it's going to run in 30 seconds, then you would only have 30 seconds. So again, it's just important to just make sure before you drop anything in that current agenda folder, especially that it is correct, that it's named correctly, that the agenda has been finalized, et cetera. It's if you do recognize that you made a mistake, you can delete it right away. You're going to have to delete it anyways, so doing it faster is better. But yeah, once it gets into the sort of cycle of everything, it can be hard to undo it.
Zach, can I follow-up question on that? Is it every 15 minutes on the quarter hour, or is it just every 15 minutes?
Quarter hour, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I'm almost positive.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
And then there's another 15-minute interval where the page is looking for what's in Civica. So it goes from the internet posting folder that you open, 15 minutes, hits Civica. Okay, now we have it duplicated. 15 minutes, then the page looks for it as well. So there's sort of it could take up to a half hour, but if you've posted it, at the end of that 15-minute interval, then it could be like 15 minutes where it posts on the page and then sends out the email.
So when Civica finds it, is that when the notification for this subscriber?
It's when the page finds it.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
potentially it's that half hour.
Yeah.
Because I just want to avoid sitting up, last.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it just an agenda change that triggers the subscriber's notification?
Yeah, you got it. So any of the rest of these
Sorry.
any of the rest of these folders will not send out an email notification. It's obviously it's important to make sure that those are all correct and named correctly as well, because once it gets into that loop, it's going to be up there until it finds the new file. So as long as that process takes, a half hour, up to maybe an hour, if it's then the page might show the wrong file up there. So you want to make sure that everything is really correct before you post it into the internet posting folder. It's not a working folder. It's a published folder. But that said, only the O2 current agenda folder, that's the only one that's triggered to send out an email. I will bring up here as well. Oh, nice. I will bring up here as well. Oh, sure.
Ms. Gu?
Yes, good point.
And I apologize. I just remember that Tony reminded us to repeat the questions, which I've completely been forgetting to do.
Oh, sorry.
So, and Kathy, your
Audience
question was essentially what happens with symbols in the doc?
Yes. So if there are characters or symbols in the document, it could cause an error. Especially ampersands are one that will cause an error. So what I always recommend is hyphens and underscores only. No spaces, no ampersands, hyphens, spaces, numbers, and letters is the simple way to do it. Yep. It'll take in capitalization. So like on these, the N in November is capitalized, etc. But yeah, don't put in ampersands or percentage markers. Just write everything out if you need to. Yeah, dollar signs, stuff like that. It'll possibly mess things up and not display it. Yes. So
Just to repeat that question into the mic. So, question being that community development has a lot of names that might be multiple properties, so they want to be sure to spell out the "and" as opposed to using an ampersand.
yes. Yeah. So definitely don't use ampersands. Spell out "and." Also, again on that page 5 of the naming convention. There are underscores used instead of spaces. Spaces will also mess things up as well. So you want to use hyphens or underscores. Underscores are going to display as spaces. So the computer sees an underscore and it's going to display it as a space. So yeah, make sure to start with that. Start with the date, hyphens, and then put in whatever you want to put in and use underscores instead of spaces. Does that make sense, Kathy? Cool. And I want to go back. There was another question about the current agenda folder and how that sends out notifications. I can bring up here my SB, which is where users can sign up for notifications. And I would recommend that you definitely sign up for whatever boards and commissions that you manage under here. So if you scroll all the way down, agenda posting and notifications. So this should have all the committees that have a folder within there, and whenever a current agenda is posted in that folder, it will trigger an email to whoever has checked this box and signed up for airport commission, etc. I would go in here and sign up for these, whatever ones that you're associated with, so that you know when those emails are being sent out. Any questions on this? No? All right.
Look at how many boards and commissions. That's crazy. See,
That is,
take it in.
yes.
Admire.
And if there's anything that should be taken down,
Nope. We appreciate all of your work. Truly, look at all that.
Yes. Don't we have more than any California city, something like that?
Possibly.
All right. So this document goes into a lot more detail on basically, the suggested way to save your PDFs from Word, and all of that. But the important thing here is that first, just to recap, to get to the internet posting folders, you can go to SharePoint, open internet posting folders. You should have permissions to post into these folders given the work group that you're in, but there may be, Phil, I think you might not have had permissions to post into the De La Guerra subcommittee folder. And if that happens, if you can't post into there, just let me know. Feel free to reach out to me via email, and I'll add you to that group that can post to those folders. But the important thing here is getting to those, knowing that this is a live folder that everyone can see that sends out emails, and the current agenda folder is the one that does that. Making sure that those files are named correctly, no ampersands, underscores for spaces, that 10-digit date in front of the file, and then cleaning up your folders as well. So moving things over to going back in here, moving things over to the archive folders as they need to be archived. So that kind of goes over the posting folders. As long as we don't have any questions, I can move into the calendar portion of it. Yeah. Uh, maybe in the future. Oh, sorry. I should repeat your question. So the question was, in the future, are we going to be able to preview before we send it out, right? And sorry, do you have a follow up? Yes. And
And the question was whether or not staff can use the test folder to see it.
yes. Yes, and I don't want to. There is a test folder in the testing area, and if you want to test with that, just feel free to email me, and I'll send you the link and verify that that folder is connected. I'm not 100% sure where it is in the testing environment, and I don't want to click through a bunch of things right now. But yeah, we do have that Z test folder is connected to a folder in the testing environment. So I can either add that to this document or send it out as well. And I do want to mention too, this document is in SharePoint, so you can either search for boards and commissions annual update procedures, and I believe it's in the SharePoint training library as well.
And Norma just added for, Raquel, if your question is about Water Commission is one of the televised advisory groups, and advisory groups will be working with Open Media, our new video streaming. And Norma, you're saying there'll be a way to essentially preview the agendas that way?
So what I was saying is that, well, at least for the clerk's office, our procedures are, we always preview our agenda before posting it anywhere. And since you'll be uploading your agenda in two places, in Civica as well as in Open Media, when you're creating your session, your event, you'll be able to preview it there before uploading it to there and then posting it on the website. So that way you'll have like a double check system. Mm-hmm.
And just since Open Media was brought up, I was going to bring this up at the end. I can take a little break between the calendar and the posting folders just to mention moving from Granicus to Open Media. So where's the televised? Oh, so videos here. So some of your boards and commissions are televised, and we have Granicus to televise those and connect the agenda and everything. We went through an RFP process and selected a new vendor for that. So we will be rolling that out over the next few months, starting in March, and there will be training sessions coming up as well. So Tony Ruggieri will be sending out an email about those training sessions. Definitely make sure to attend those as well. And just to give you some background on Open Media, Open Media is a nonprofit, and they started in Colorado with the Colorado State Legislature to bring them off of Granicus as well. They use YouTube. So a lot of our issues with Granicus have been ability to access the meetings, not working on mobile and that sort of thing. So we'll be using YouTube as a player moving forward. And like Norma said, you're going to upload the agenda into Open Media, connect it to your video live stream, and then put in the jump points and everything there. So you'll actually upload the meeting agenda in two different places. And I don't know if you have anything else to add. Any questions on that? Yeah.
My question would go back to Brown Act. Could you review a little bit on if there's no changes as far as for notifying you guys to post regular schedule or what's the other one? Not regular, but yeah, the special one.
Sure. So the question, if we can hijack you for a second, Zach,
Go for it.
was to talk a little bit more about the process for physically posting the agendas for your advisory group meetings in terms of having the clerk's office do physical postings for you. So refresher for those of you who haven't done it, I think all of you have. If you need an agenda to be posted to the clerk's office at City Hall, you're going to email it to the Brown Act Postings email address, and that just goes to all of us in the city clerk's office. And that's much better than sending it just to me or just to Norma, because it makes sure somebody will check it. We will post it at City Hall. We also have a log roll will note it. We will send you an email back saying your agenda has been posted. If so, here are my caveats, important things. Make sure you get that email back from us saying the agenda is posted. If you haven't gotten that reply email back, then assume that it has not. So email us again, call us, come by, what have you. But if you're relying on it being posted, make sure you've seen that reply email. Secondly, we are amongst those lucky departments that are closed on every other Friday, same schedule as the rest of City Hall. So if you are working on that Friday and you email it to us, then we're not gonna be there. Allison, for our wonderful front desk records tech, does send reminders out to those of you that post the advisory groups. If you're not getting those advisory agenda reminder emails, let me know and we'll make sure you're added to the list. But they're essentially reminding you of the days that we're closed. And generally don't send an agenda a half hour before posting and then walk out, or a half hour before closing and then walk out the door. Give us time to get it done. We're happy to do it, but it's an interruption to get up and, print it out, go post it, blah, blah, blah. So it's probably not going to happen immediately. If it's coming if it's an emergency and you're just getting it done at 5 and it has to be posted by 5:30, send it to that email address and then call us. And if you don't immediately reach us, come over and make sure that it's getting done. So essentially don't throw it over the wall and be like, see y'all, which no one in this room has done. And it happens very, very rarely, but we just want to make sure that we can help you. And I will tell you the story that once in my 15-year career have I had to go to a locked outside posting bulletin board with my agenda and a piece of tape so that it was posted. But that also is an option. If something crazy comes up, it needs to be posted outside City Hall or wherever for X amount of time. Just keep that in mind. In terms of the difference between regular agenda, special agenda in terms of timing, regular agendas need to be posted 72 hours before the meeting. That's 3 days, and special meetings need to be posted 24 hours before the meeting. Cancellations also should be posted. Cancellations need to be put on the door of the...
If it's close to the starting time of the meeting, it needs to be posted at the doors. And we recommend someone standing by the door to let people know that the meeting has been canceled. But cancellation agendas can be posted also the day of the meeting.
So the advisory committee next Thursday,
Mm-hmm.
we were thinking it was 72 hours and it's a Monday holiday and having posted today. But it's a special meeting because that technically that committee only meets once every 6 months, so we have flexibility. Does that mean it's really only 24 hours prior to?
So the question was, there's a meeting coming up next week, and to post it 72 hours ahead of time, it would need to be posted today. But it's a special meeting because it's not on one of the ordinary meeting days. Is it 24 hours? Yes, it is. It is a 24-hour deadline in that case, but I would, particularly with the situation you're describing where they usually only meet every 6 months, that's, I would say, giving as much notice as you can of the fact that they're meeting next week is a good idea. So I'd really recommend posting it today. We try to encourage people, if you can not take advantage of that 24-hour rule, then don't, because more notice the better. And also, just to tell you what we handed out here, this Open and Public 5 Guide to Brown Act. These are extracted pages from the from this publication, which is called this, and inside we just have the Chapter 4 about agendas, notices, and public participation. It's a League of Cities publication, and you can find it at the League of Cities website. Ariel worked on a version of it. I'm not sure if this current one, but it's the Bible that I look to when I'm asked Brown Act questions. So I would say, feel free to pull up the electronic copy. And but these are kind of the relevant pages for you guys. Yeah.
The question is, do we need to do the internet postings and email to the Brown Act postings the same day?
The question was, does staff need to do the email to Brown Act postings and put it online the same day? Yes, generally you're going to want to publish to the internet and post it physically at the same time. Yep, at the location of the meeting and at City Hall. Yes, Ms. Gu. The question was, is the Brown Act email distribution list essentially just one, current? Mm-hmm. Yes, it's current. Just one. Good question. Okay.
All right. That was a nice little intermission.
Little interlude.
Yes. So just to recap, we've been over how to post onto the agendas, meetings, and the agendas, minutes, and meetings schedule online. And the next portion is the calendar. So over here we have the whole city calendar. And I'm just going to uncheck these boxes so you can just see the boards and commissions. Which is most of what's on the calendar, actually, is the boards and commissions that are coming up. So over here, you have SFDB is happening on the 28th. It has the location, this is a sign committee. It has a description. It tells you the link, where to go, time, etc. So we're going to go over a bit of how to post these and get a recurrence set up and everything. But just before I do that, in this annual updates procedures document that you have, it references several other documents. The way to get to those is to go to SharePoint, type in Civica, hit enter. It's going to bring up the search. And the first one there that says Civica CMS, there's a library of documents within there that has a bunch of calendar documents as well. So it's a little small for me to see, but they should be in there, and that'll give you a good thorough documentation of how to do something like extend a recurrence, etc. So definitely use those training documents within there for the calendar, event updating and all that stuff. But if you hit a wall, I'm always available to answer any questions that you may have, and you can just reach out directly to me. So I'm going to go over here to Civica. I've already logged in, and this is the main login screen. I should note that some of you may have Civica logins for editing, HR pages, but you'll have a separate login for boards and commissions. And the reason for that is just kind of how Civica works with permissions. It's we put people into groups, so the boards and commissioners need to be kind of separated from your main account in order to get permissions to post to the calendar. So your boards and commissions account is going to end in the number 1. So it'll be your first letter of your first name, your last name, and then the number 1. Sorry, it's not a letter. And then you'll have another account maybe to update your pages and all that. So if you don't have that Civica account and you need to go in and you need to change the calendar, let me know again, and I'll set you up with that account, give you the permissions and your username and password, and you can log in and then post to the calendar. Once you log in, you'll see less icons than this, but you will see a calendar icon here. So click on that. This will bring up a little date picker. I think it was the 28th when the sign committee happens. You'll see the sign committee up here. And if you ever need to, modify an existing event, you can do that. But I'm going to go in and create a new entry and then kind of show you how to start a new recurrence. Should mention before that, though, if you already have a recurrence set up and it just needs to be extended for the year, you can go in and extend the recurrence, and definitely refer to that calendar extending a recurrence document in order to get the full step-by-step on that. So once you come in here, and if you need to put in a new entry, you can click Add New Entry. Before we get too far into it, I just want to call out that you can do recurrences. So if you meet monthly, that's very easy. If you meet quarterly, it's a little bit more difficult, and we'll get to that. But you don't need to put in each individual event. You'll be able to put in an event for the year. And typically, with those recurrences, we will recommend to do it for a year, and then go in and extend it to the next year. And as long as your recurrences stay the same, then you're good to go, and your meetings will extend in the next year. But if your meetings have changed, then you'll need to go in and start a new event or change the recurrence. Okay, so I'm going to go through each of these fields. So the event title is going to be the main title, and I'm going to hop back and forth between this one that I have open just so I can show you sort of what the fields reference. So sign committee, this top thing is going to be your title. Oh, that's the one I'm on. That's going to be the event title, and I'll just mimic it here. I'll post to a test area, so it's not going to go live. But the short title, if I refresh this, the short title is going to be what's shown on this calendar view. So you can see in here that Water Commission actually fits. Great. That's probably I think it's 16 characters. But it'll only allow 16 characters. So if you're on, Architectural Board of Review, you're not going to be able to write that out. So that's why things are often abbreviated. So show, sign, etc. For something like Water Commission, also another important point to note when we get to it is when you cancel a meeting, you're going to want to put canceled, write out canceled in the meeting instead of just deleting the event. So if for Water Commission, if it's canceled, you're going to want to put canceled and then maybe water or WC. Yeah. So that short title, I'll put sign here. And that's going to be character limited, but it is important to note that if you have to put in canceled, you might have to shorten it even further, like in Water Commission. Featured event you can leave blank. That's going to post to the homepage, and generally Shelley Cohn in the city administrator's office or Nino would deal with the featured events. So leave those blank. Audience is always going to be the internet. There are some kind of extra fields in here that we don't necessarily use, so we'll see some of those. But the location filter is up here as well, so there are some locations in here like the David Gephardt Public Meeting Room, so you can check that if you see it. If you don't see it there, don't worry about it. Just don't check anything. Age group. So this is one of those things that seems kind of like we might not need it, but this calendar module was used by the library for some time and has some extra things that the library needed. So they had, events for children and seniors and et cetera. But you're always going to do all ages for this because everyone's invited to the boards and commissions, right?
In our open and public meetings, yes.
Yes. Anyone can make public comment. Okay, so filter, you don't need to worry about that, but divisions is an important one to check. So you'll see up here that there's like a city council meetings, there's finance committee under mayor and council, ordinance and sustainability, but most of the boards and commissions are going to be under boards, commissions, and committees. You're going to just want to choose whichever one you are responsible for, and I'm going to choose the training calendar. Where'd it go? So that I can post it. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I'm posting to the training calendar for this one. The training calendar is not seen by the public, so if you ever want to, see what your event, to Rochelle's question before, you can post to the training calendar, go to santabarbaraca.gov/training, and there's a calendar in there that that you can view and no one else can. So if you ever just want to test it out before it goes up, you can do that as well. So I'll put it in the training subdivision. And generally, you're only gonna check one box on here. It's gonna be your board or commission. The time info. So you do need to put in a start time. Let's say, what is that error? I'm gonna say yes down here. Okay. It's gonna start at. Why is it doing error? Not sure why that's going on, but yeah, I know. Let's do PM instead. Maybe no, it doesn't like that either. That's after work. Not sure why that's happening, but it never has before, so it never will again.
If I've learned anything from quality assurance.
So the important thing to note about this is that you do need to put in a start time and an end time. And I know that meetings often run longer than, or you don't know how long they're going to run.
I don't know what you're talking about. No.
Yeah, just do it for a half hour and
I'm
hope.
just eating food that I have under my desk like a weirdo at council meetings.
Yeah, so try to do your best guess of when it's going to end. The system does require you to put in an end time, though. So, yeah, it won't take it if it doesn't have a start and end time. You can do all day event if you really want to have fun with the board and commission. But yes, Rose.
So I have a question for that. That doesn't apply. The Brown Act doesn't apply to that, right? So if I put usually 4 to 6 for the Parks and Recreation Commission, it ends at 5. It's not a problem.
Correct, not a problem. The question was essentially, is this binding in terms of the Brown Act? So if you put in for the calendar, then a meeting will last from 4 to 7 and it ends at 5 o'clock. Is that an issue under the Brown Act? No, it can always end earlier. Yay.
All right. So after that, there's the date. So put in the start date. If you're starting it fresh, again, you can go in and modify an older calendar event and extend this. But the recurrence pattern. So this is where it gets a little bit tricky and confusing, especially if you have like quarterly meetings. It's not so cut and dry when you're going to put it up here. There's you can try and work in a recurrence, or you can just put in individual meetings if you have like 4 meetings for the year. It's kind of whatever you prefer. But there are a bunch of recurrence patterns. So the last, Thursday of, why is it doing that? The last Thursday of the month might be your recurrence pattern. Every nth week, so that might be a way that you can kind of see that it's every every fifth week. So you can put in the nth value and say every fifth week it'll repeat. The easiest one is just a monthly recurrence. Beep. And then this is where you'll put in your recur until. So if you have an existing calendar recurrence for your board or commission, you can go in and modify that recurrence and extend it until, next year. Again, I don't know why it's doing that. So, every monthly on, on the 28th. It's probably not going to be monthly for yours, but let's do the first Tuesday of the month is going to be when we have our meetings. And I don't know if the 28th is a Tuesday, but hopefully it is. Any questions on the recurrences so far? I will mention a little bit later, but again, there are some documentation. There's some documentation in here. I would recommend opening that documentation when you're going in to modify your calendar event. It's very detailed, so it'll make sure that you go through it and check all the boxes as you go along. Yep.
So if you do, let's say, like a Monday recurrence, can you modify just one of the recurrences, like in the calendar?
Excellent question. Yes, and I'll put this one in there, and then we can go back in and modify it. Oh, sorry. The question was, if you put in a recurrence, can you go back in and modify one of those recurrences? Yes. The answer is that you can modify one of them. It's going to ask you at the end of it, do you want to do this for all of them, or do you want to do it just for one? And you say, I just want to do it for this one. One of the important things to note about that, though, is once you do modify that event, it's going to take that out of the recurrence. So if you make sort of, you change the meeting location or something like that, that one that you modified is not going to be updated with that. So, so I think, it's good to go and double check what's going on. And again, you can use that training calendar to your benefit if you want to put in your recurrence, check the training calendar, make sure it's okay, and then you can come back in and modify this and just uncheck the training calendar and check your board and commission because everything is all right. I think that's also a beneficial thing to do, just to double check. There's another location filter here, and I believe this one is the one that's actually getting pulled in. So the checkbox up at the top, and then there's one down here. I'm going to put the David Gephardt meeting room, and there we go. So it has these extra drop downs, but you don't have to worry about those. There's a show event button, so you could, you're always going to want to have that checked. And then there's a description field. So if I go back over to HLC, the description field is right here. So usually it's going to say, when they alternate Wednesdays at 1:30 p.m. And I'll just copy that and put it in here. There are a bunch more things that you can do in here. You want to put a contact name and phone, and that's going to be probably you, but whoever's listed on that agenda meetings and minutes page. You can also put up the associated PDF if you want, but generally we link to the board and commission page. So again, there's a bunch of extra fields there. I'm just going to double check that I have the training subdivision, nothing else, and I'll submit that. Okay. Why? Again, I think we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. Yeah, I think it booted me. But anyway, it'll be up there. You'll be able to see it. One thing, I'm just going to go in to modify an existing event. So this is the sign committee. Again, this one is live on the site now. It should be checked down here that this is going to the sign committee calendar. And they do have a recurrence here, so you can see that the start date recur every second week, and it recurs until 2020. So whoever did the sign committee, great job. You've done exactly what you're supposed to do already and extended your recurrence. So if your events are posted and you know that they were good to go last year and that you have the same recurrence, you can just come in here, make sure that it's extended until December 31st, 2020. It's probably 2019 if you're not seeing them for this year. Yep.
Do you get an automatic email update when it's going to expire?
No.
Just repeating the question, whether or not there's an automatic email update when it's going to expire.
Thank you. I know I keep forgetting to do that. No, this isn't connected to email or anything. So it's up to you to make sure that the calendar is updated.
Does it account for holidays? So, say it's every other Monday. Sorry, did you answer that?
Oh, no, sorry.
Like if it's every other Monday, and then that Monday is closed, so it's coming through Tuesday.
So the question was, does it account for holidays? Is it, if it is a recurrence that lands on a holiday, will it show? It will show. It doesn't. It sees holidays as any other day. And that's a good lead in to canceling a meeting. I deleted I deleted my recurrence, so I won't be able to show you exactly what happens. But if you had to cancel this, and I won't save this for whoever manages the sign committee, but you would put canceled sign committee and then canceled here. I spelled that wrong. I might have done the British spelling. But you would save that, and then this would go all the way down. You submit it, and it's going to say, do you want to do this for every event? And you're going to say, no, I just want to do it for this one. For holidays, you can put. I think you can delete. You would delete an event from the. So you would go to the like you have a recurrence set up. I got you, Kathy. So if it's say this is a holiday, you can delete this one here, and it's going to ask you, do you want to delete your whole recurrence, or do you want to just delete this one single event? And you say, I just want to delete this one single event. Kathy? Yes. So yes. So Kathy was pointing out that what they do for if it's a Monday meeting, or usually a Monday meeting and it lands on a holiday, that meeting is bumped to Tuesday, and what they can do is come in, modify this single event, bump the date on that event to a Tuesday, submit it, and it's going to, again, it'll say, do you want to do this for everything, or do you want to just do it for this one event? And you just say it for that one event. And again, the important thing to note about that is it's going to take it out of the recurrence. So if you make a change to, again, the meeting location or something like that, and you want to make it to everything, that one that you have on, that random one that you have on a holiday that you moved to do a Tuesday, it won't save that in the recurrence. It's now its individual own thing. Does that make sense? Cool. Yeah.
So I've never done the extension because that wasn't the instructions that were left for me when I took on the position. And what happens is Parks and Recreation Commission typically meets on the fourth Wednesday of the month. For November and December, it's always like generally usually the third or sometimes the second, depending on where the holidays fall, Thanksgiving and Christmas. So I've done separate from January to October, and then just change the November, December. Now, can I change or extend the recurrence of the original if I do it that way? Or will it not? Because I changed two of them to different days.
So the question was, the Parks and Recreation Committee meets on a Wednesday, last Wednesday of the month, or some fourth Wednesday of the month, and during the holidays, that is, yeah, has to be changed. And so because of that, Rose usually does January to to October or early November, and then does the other ones manually. And you were asking, can you extend the recurrence for?
If I don't know how to do it, 'cause I do it once a year.
Yeah.
I follow my own instructions. So if I went in and did January through December and then modified November and December to change the dates,
Hmm.
can I extend the original recurrence for 2020?
So going in from January to December, if you went from January to December and modified those last dates, can you then extend into the next year? Yes, and I would, you can do it the way that you have been doing it yearly, but you can also put it in for the full year. Go in, make sure that you'll basically break the recurrence for those dates during the holidays. Change them around or cancel them or whatever, or delete them, and then for the next year you can extend that again and then have the same process. That works too, but it's sort of a preference of what you want to do. The one thing with that though that you have to remember is, again, you've broken the recurrence. So if there's something that you want to change on all of them, those dates in December won't be changed on that. So you just have to remember, okay, I got to go back in and change all these too, which I would assume you probably already do because those ones are individual later. Yep.
It's standard that most of the holidays, like, President's Day, or Caesar's Salad, or, not Caesar's Salad, what we call, Thanksgiving, Christmas anniversary, pretty much follow the same patterns every year to years, but it's the ones that move, the ones that are not like the third Thursdays or something like that. Like Caesar's Salad, it's the first 31st of March, and it moves at the beginning of the week. So anything that moves, you're going to have to break the occurrence and schedule it as a separate event.
Yeah. So questions on holidays that move around, basically, like Cesar Chavez Day or other holidays that kind of it's not always the same year to year. Yeah, so I would recommend too, when you do this, get a calendar in front of you. Get the the days that we're going to be closed in front of you, and make sure that that those days aren't listed on there. And just kind of schedule it out for the year. Give yourself a chunk of time. Again, if you want to put it on the training calendar and go into the training, santabarbaraca.gov/training, and look for the calendar on there. Feel free to do that while you're figuring out if everything is correct, and then you can just check that box. But again, if you break the recurrence when you're doing that, then it'll only do it. You'll have to go in for each one. So the recurrence is really the tricky part on this. Otherwise, it's fairly straightforward. Yeah.
I have a question even when it comes like the new locations.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of ties back to the Brown Act postings. So there's like a lot of locations to these 6 different. So do we still email the agendas to the Brown Act posting email address, and they'll come all the way over here and post it, or is there someone else we should email to?
Okay, so the question was for agenda postings, if whether just emailing Brown Act complies with that. So I would say just like make sure you always email it to Brown Act postings, and we'll only post it at City Hall. But for David, for this Gebhardt room, there is a separate email list. It's the David Gebhardt room postings. You could email it to them, and someone will post it here. We do not come and post it over here.
Okay, and then like all the libraries have their own.
Yeah, library has their own. I think it's library admin. That's their email posting. Yeah, I don't think we keep one. So yeah, you could just go ahead and email staff that you know from those departments, and they'll let you know who to email it to.
Yeah, so the question was if with City Hall being closed on Flex Fridays, don't schedule meetings at City Hall, conference rooms, et cetera, on Flex Fridays. Yes, correct. Of course.
Oh, yep, there's another question.
I think I think each department handles it differently, but I'd suggest if you have an and the question was essentially that you had kind of a group of contacts that worked in this building that you would email if you had Gephardt postings, and that had a group name, but then they created a formal group with that, and so sometimes your email will accidentally go to the old group and not the new one. I would say just delete that old group. I hear what you're saying. I know each department handles it differently, so I'm not sure if we can look into coordinating all around. But I know that I would say just reach out to clerk's office. If we are changing the way for you to let us know, then we'll let you know. I'd be more worried about departments changing their group names at this point than not. I think so. I'd say just reach out to us and whichever posting department. Make sure you have their most updated, and then we'll let you know if they change.
All right. Any questions on the calendar? Everyone good? Cool. So just to give a little recap, we went over internet posting folders. So again, you can find those in online services internet posting folders. The important things on there is that the current agenda folder sends out an email, so make sure that you have it right. The file name has to be a specific set of characters at the front, the date, and underscores or spaces. Don't use special characters, and kind of keep those up to date. And then on the calendar, the only really tricky things on there are the recurrences. So if you break a recurrence, then it's not going to update that event. And if a meeting is canceled, make sure to say canceled. Don't just delete it, because we want people to know that the meeting is canceled. Other than that, there's a lot of detail on here. So make sure to save this document, but it's also on SharePoint. And if you ever need Civica help, you can type in Civica onto SharePoint and browse that library. There's a bunch of really helpful documents, kind of individual Word documents that are great to reference. But if you hit a wall, or if something is wrong, or if you need permissions on anything, permissions to post to the calendar or permissions to post to the folders, email me, zsmith at santabarbaraca.gov, and I'm more than willing to help out. All right. Well, if there's nothing else.
And any other Brown Act type questions while you got us, and you can also catch Norma and I after the meeting. Yes. The question was, if a meeting is being held in Gebhard, then Raquel will email it to Brown Act posting, so we post it at City Hall. You'll email it to David Gebhard room posting, so it's posted at the location. Does it also have to be emailed to the library? I don't think so. No. And I'm sorry, Kathy had a question. Let's go back. As a IT question, I think that's a Zach question.
So the question was on the posting folders, who has permission to post? So most of them are set up through Active Directory. So, community development has access to post to HLC or stuff like that. Parks and Recreation, the Parks and Recreation group will have access to post to that folder. So when new people come in, they should have access to post to those folders if they're in that department. But there are some individual permissions set up, or there's some that don't have the group associated with them. So that's when just get in contact with me. And if there's a new person coming on board that you want to make sure that they have access to post, just email me and ask, and I can just look it up on that folder.
Rose? Rose was saying that for Parks and Rec Commission that they send the whole packet to the library, which can then be printed out and available to the public to look at, but it's not posted. Oh, you sent a printed copy too. Excellent. Very good. Thank you. Rochelle?
So the question was, how long should we keep a current agenda in the folder after the meeting has occurred? If the clerk's office doesn't have a recommendation on it, I would keep it up until you have the next meeting. So once you swap it out, because I would assume that's still current if it's the previous meeting.
I agree with that. Any other questions? Well, I speak for my esteemed panel, I am sure, and saying thank you guys so much. Thank you for coming today. Thank you for your questions. And really, thank you for staying on top of this stuff. It's a lot of working with staff and working with commissioners and working with members of the public, and we really, really appreciate all your hard work. Thank you. And if I missed you with the candy, it's because I didn't want to hit you in the head and you're kind of in the middle of people, and come up and I'll give you some. Thanks.
Thank you.